Hey homies. I gotta mute that. I'm watching The Shining. You can't listen to that. I have no idea how this works. So I have no idea. Hey Tori. I'm gonna wait and see if anyone pops in. I know Alyssa will pop in. I'm sure my mom will. Melissa, hey. Um, oh wow, that happens fast. That happened so fast. Please enter. Disclaimer that I put in there. There is no way I am making it through a video without getting barked at or my face licked. Also, I wasn't kidding about my hat. It is my security blanket. I will not make eye contact with the actual camera. My nervous tics, I'm going to play with my hair. I'm probably going to twirl my necklace, and I'm just going to look up in the distance like that. Can everyone hear me okay? Because I literally never do this. I hate the sound of my own voice. I'm reading it, but I do. I hate the sound of my own voice. So pretty much I'm just going to give it a couple minutes, and if, then we can get into me trying not to rant as much as just kind of like give you guys some insight into, my experience and giving you an idea of maybe why people do the things they do and why women react the way they react. I'm very happy to see like so many of you coming in. Again, I'm sorry. I have a horrible voice. Also, I'm kind of blue because I really couldn't find my lighting. And I kind of look like the Crypt Keeper. But, considering I got bit in the head by a 7-year-old today, I'm doing pretty good. So, there you go. That would be Dexter. So anyway, to get started, the reason obviously I feel like I have to say something, and again, I'm staring at my own face, not at the camera, because I'm incredibly uncomfortable with eye contact, which also explains the hat. Dexter, shush. Those of you who know me well enough to know that my sense of humor is kind of what has gotten me through a lot in my life. My mom has gone through cancer twice, and if it wasn't for our ability to kind of laugh about it, we wouldn't be able to get through it. My grandma struggling with dementia, if you've ever talked to me about it, laughing about it has kind of been my way of dealing with it. The one thing that I never really dealt with, even with humor, was what happened to me back in 2012. So we're talking about 6 years ago. For starters, I'm not going to obviously give names or anything. I guarantee you nobody knows this person except for Brittany, as she is my best friend and has met this person. Other than that, you're not going to know who it is. And I would rather just not get into that because at this point, I don't feel like that's the important part. I feel like it's more important for me to talk about my experience with what I went through, my reaction to what happened to me, and why 6 years later is the first time that literally all of you are hearing about it, including my best friend, including my mother. I share everything with my mother, and she didn't know about this until she saw me post about it on Facebook. And I'll explain why that is, considering she's been the person who's, known everything about me since birth. But yeah, so I'm not going to get into who or anything like that. But if you have questions, by all means, ask away. I'm kind of an open book at this point. honestly, I started kind of talking about it or alluding to it about a year and a half ago when the Me Too movement started to really pick up. I told a couple of friends down here in Florida about it, and I fortunately told somebody who made me realize or made me feel like I couldn't really talk about it, and that was my fault. And that was what I had struggled with for so long. So, I swear, shush, mommy's telling her story. Um, anyway, so full disclosure, backstory about me. And I think it's important to give that because, I think that, and again, I'm going to totally avoid eye contact. I think that it's important to give that backstory on me because I feel like a lot of times with these women who come forward with this, their histories get dissected and we kind of point to them and say like, well, this is how she was promiscuous. She dressed like this. She was out drinking all the time, yada, yada, yada. Same kind of like mentality when a young black man gets shot and we find out that he smoked weed once or something and, we try to justify it. I let myself justify it for a long time. And the reason I think it's important for me to speak out on it is because if you know me, I think we can agree I'm a fairly intelligent person. I'm relatively rational. I'm also a little crazy, but I'm relatively rational. And I don't really make mounds out of molehills, So I think it's important to have someone that most of you know personally. You know my story. You know my education, you know my career. I think a lot of you know my heart. And to kind of hear it out and, really think about what's going on in this country right now and why there are so many women like me who didn't speak out and are just speaking out or, have spoken out and now seem oversensitive or politically correct all the time when certain things are said or done by people in power positions. A little bit of an idea of what it's like to be a woman. And right now, most of the people in here are women. So y'all know. But, okay. I do feel for men in terms of being put into this ball and into this group of men that are trash. Because truly, you are not all like that. Trust me, I love men. I'm not a man basher. I'm pretty sure I walked out of the womb and I was like, I'm single and ready to mingle. I don't hate men. However, to give you an idea of why women feel the way they do and why you hear a lot of that, I have a couple examples. And it's amazing what sticks with you and like what you remember. Because I'm going back here 14 or 15 years old I was, okay? And I remember I was walking home from my boyfriend's house at the time, and I was about 100 pounds maybe, skinny, tiny little thing. And I remember wearing this giant, oversized sweatshirt, okay? And I think I had sweatpants on, but 99% sure I was probably in sweatpants and a giant, oversized sweatshirt. I wasn't cute at that point. I didn't look cute, okay? And, for me, this is when I really realized, like, it's not flattering. I think this whole thing, the men are like, well, it's a compliment. It's this. It's not flattering. It's uncomfortable. It makes you feel stared at. And so anyway, I remember being 15, I'm walking, and by the way, I screw up words. All right. I'm from New York. They just fly off the tongue. Anyway, I was walking home and I remember, getting honked at and like whistled at, and this car like slowing down next to me, and this guy like screaming things out the window. And again, I was 14 or 15 years old. Like I said, at that point, maybe 100 pounds, wearing a giant oversized sweatshirt and sweatpants. Nothing on me was screaming, you know, first of all, grown woman, because I wasn't. Um, and yet this guy was honking at me and harassing me, you know, simply because I was a girl and I was by myself. And I know that that is not all men. I totally get that. That is not all men. However, that shit happens to almost all women. And when you're 15 and, you know, you're kind of like, wait, why? Why is this guy honking at me and whistling? I look like a little boy. But because it was obvious I was a girl, I was still a target for that kind of behavior. The other thing I can think of another time that really sticks out for me is when I was 17, obviously a little bit more developed and everything, but still not like scantily clad. I remember being in Best Buy with my mom, and this man just was following me in and out of aisles and whispering things and catcalling and whistling. And now I remember how uncomfortable I felt. I remember just being like, Prince, not now. I definitely remember just feeling naked, feeling stared at, and not, I don't want to say ashamed of anything. Like I don't think I felt ashamed of what I looked like or the way my body looked, but I felt uncomfortable in my own skin. And you know, if you know me well enough, you know I don't like going places by myself. I have anxiety about that as it is. So at 17, when you're kind of being followed around by a complete stranger calling you out, you know, it's uncomfortable. And that's, I tell these stories because I want guys to understand we're not attacking you. If you're an awesome guy and that's not you, keep being the awesome guy you are, because I believe you're out there. But this is a reality for a lot of us women. You know, we can't go places without people feeling like just because we're in public means that we're like open to just, you know, be hit on and everything. You know, I have resting bitch face, all right? So like, don't approach me. Don't tell me to smile. I don't want to smile. I'm standing in line in the bathroom. I don't want to smile. And there's some guys who take that offensively, that, you know, what, I don't understand, like, why wouldn't you just take it as a compliment? And, oh, you'd be much prettier if you smiled. Well, I'm not trying to be pretty right now. I've been waiting online for the restroom for 40 minutes. You see what I'm getting at? Like, it's unwelcome. It's not flattering. It doesn't make you feel good about yourself. Anyway, I wanted to give like that little prerequisite because I do feel like a lot of men feel targeted, and I don't want to feel like I'm targeting anyone because I'm not. So the next thing I'm going to say is there's, like I said, everyone has their backstory. And my backstory, in my mid-20s, I was a party girl. I like to go out on the weekends. I drink. I never went home with strangers or anything like that because, you know, I read a lot about serial killers, so I know better than to do that. But at the same time, I you know, I had friends, you know, and I didn't, I don't say I didn't sleep around because I didn't do that, but, you know, I had friends. And I really, at that point in my life, was not looking for anything serious. I would date guys for a couple months here or there, and it didn't work out, and I didn't care because it just, if it didn't work, it wasn't worth it. So I I would go on online dating. And for those of you born after like 1990, there was no Tinder. This was like OkCupid and like Match.com. And I meet people, and I was hungry. So if I went to dinner now and then, didn't mean I slept with anybody, but I made friends that way too. And I had a couple of really uncomfortable experiences. And, you know, some of them I would joke about, you know, because I could. For example, if you're a Seinfeld fan in the Whip It Out episode, he whipped it out, like he took it out. That actually happened to me. And that one, I kind of was like, this guy's nuts, and I didn't let it bother me. But anyway, so I 2012, it was probably like May. I met this guy, and after like 2 dates, it was obviously not anything serious. It was just going to be something fun, and we hung out. Whatever happened. It obviously, like I said, it wasn't serious, and I wasn't interested in anything serious, and he knew that. I knew he wasn't interested in anything serious either. And we would hang out without all the hookup stuff too. Like sometimes, we would just like go to the beach and go to the movies and stuff like that. So it was kind of just, it was a friendship with occasional benefits. Then, hold on, my voice is getting dry. I had comfort food today because, again, I got bit in the head by a 7-year-old. Did I mention that part? Yeah. That's a whole other hashtag. So I have been hanging out with him, or known him for like 3 months, and I want to say like 3 months because probably like late summer, so you get an idea. I was 26. And most Saturday nights I went out, but for whatever reason I was home this Saturday night, but I didn't feel like much like going to a bar or anything like that. And he messaged me and said that he was having his brother and his cousin over. Like, he lived at home still, and he was saying that his mom was not going to be home, so he was having his brother and cousin over, and they were just going to have some beers, watch TV, whatever. Pretty chill night. And I was in the mood for that. So I went over there. I had Dexter at the time already. So I remember saying I can't really stay long because I had to get home to Dexter. Because all my fur mamas know out there, unless you want to come home to a mess, you got to come home at night. So I went over there. I had never been to his house before. And when I got there, they were playing like a drinking game. I just kind of jumped right in. Cheap beer. It was like Bud Lights or something. And there's an ant on my screen. It's bothering me. So I remember, and this is another point I want to bring up. Everyone is so quick to say, how do you not remember this? And how do you not remember this? Like, how do you not remember this traumatic experience? You don't. There are bits and pieces I can't explain to you why I remember. It's the same point I tried to make on 9/11, how I can remember certain things on 9/11, and then I can't remember what seems to be very important, but then I can remember like the most insignificant things about 9/11. And that's the only thing I can compare it to in terms of why I remember some things and why some things I don't. So I can't tell you what time I got there. I have no idea. But I remember they were Bud Lights. I can't remember the drinking game we were playing. I remember my thought process of I have to get home. I can't drink a lot because I have to get home. And the guy lived about probably like 20 minutes away from me. So anyway, I had a few drinks or whatever. Felt fine. I remember we walked to the 7-Eleven because these guys wanted more beer. We got the beer. I remember we bought is it Bud Light Platinum or Budweiser Platinum? Whatever it was, it wasn't good. And at that point, I pretty much stopped drinking because, like I said, I knew I had to get home to Dexter. And I had kind of cut off whatever. When we got back to the house, they kept drinking, and I kind of was just hanging out. And suddenly, I didn't feel very good. I'm not saying I don't think like I was drugged or anything like that. I think that shitty beer plus whatever I had for dinner that night did not sit well. So I felt like I was going to be sick. And again, when I talk about what you remember and what you don't, I can vividly remember like his bathroom being at the top of the stairs. And I can remember walking into the bathroom. I can remember exactly what the bathroom looked like. And I remember getting sick. I threw up. And, again, I wasn't drunk. I had an upset stomach. But I had alcohol in my system, obviously. I had, a couple beers. At that point in my life, I was a pro. So, I wasn't drunk, but I definitely was feeling it, and I was sick to my stomach. So anyway, this guy's downstairs with his brother and his cousin still. So I decide, you know what? I'm just going to hop in the shower really quick, rinse off, wake myself up, and that'll probably make me feel better after throwing up. Didn't work like that. I ended up throwing up more in the shower. I guess at this point, dude heard me throwing up. So he came upstairs and knocked on the door. And this is where it all kind of gets, the memory kind of shifts. So again, I talk about what you remember during a traumatic event and what you don't. Because I can remember getting out of the shower. I can remember wrapping the towel around myself. But I can't remember, walking into a bedroom. I can't remember. I remember waking up, throwing up, and I was in a bed. I remember that. And I remember he was holding a bag in front of me while I was throwing up. And I remember saying to him that if I kept throwing up, he might have to call an ambulance, because at that point I was starting to think it was like food poisoning, or really just said I drank crappy beer with crappy food, which is usually really good, but this time it wasn't. Anyway, so I ended up falling asleep. I wouldn't say I didn't black out. I literally just from throwing up, and at that point it gotten pretty late, I ended up just knocking out. And then I remember waking up. And when I woke up, I can't remember his face. I can't remember his face. I remember him wearing a blue polo, royal blue polo. And I remember it had a name stitched on it, but it wasn't his. It was his brother's name. And I can't tell you what his face looked like. I can't tell you, to be honest with you, how do I know it wasn't his brother? I can't even tell you that. And remember, even if I were wasted, which I wasn't, but even if I were wasted, I was sleeping. And I just woke up to this person on top of me, having intercourse with me. And I got paralyzed, and I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I just kind of was stunned, I think. And then I think I just fell back to sleep. I remember being light out, so I know it was morning. I don't think I went back to sleep for too long, because I remember getting home by 7:45 a.m. So, like I said, I remember all these details, but I cannot tell you, other than knowing what his face looks like, obviously, because I knew him, but I cannot remember what his face looked like in that moment. And, I remember him waking me up, because remember I said he lived at home still, and saying that his mom was coming home, so I had to go. I remember just getting up and feeling what the hell just happened? Knowing I had been throwing up pretty much all night, knowing I had gone to sleep at some point, and then vaguely remembering what had happened a little bit earlier. Got in my car, I drove home. Can't tell you anything about the drive home I remember getting on the Parkway. I actually remember getting on the Parkway, of all things. I don't remember getting home. Totally sober as a judge. Don't remember getting home. And I pulled into my driveway, and I must have taken Dexter out because, he hadn't gone on all night at this point. And but I don't remember that. What I remember is going back in my room, laying down, and just falling back asleep. When I woke up like hours later, I kind of started processing things, and I wasn't sure what had happened, and I actually say not Judge Kavanaugh, you kill me. I actually immediately started blaming myself immediately. And hold on one second. Do not start barking at me. Mommy's busy. Too early to go out. Chill. That's Prince. Prince a pain in the ass. Anywho, so I actually texted the guy, and I said, hey, what was that about this morning, And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you know what I was talking about, when I woke up, what was that about? And he was like, what about it? And I said, well, it's a little weird. I was sleeping. And he said, oh, no, you totally were awake. You wanted it. I wasn't awake. There was no way I was awake. Even when I opened my eyes, I was barely awake. And, this is like the messed up part. But again, this is what I want people to understand. It doesn't make sense if it hasn't happened to you. It doesn't make sense to me. And it happened to me. I didn't see him again, but I continued talking to him for about 2 more weeks, And I remember, like, in those 2 weeks, it did cross my mind, like, is this something I want to report? Like, do I want to follow through with this? And then it dawned on me. There's no witnesses. It's me versus him. There's no evidence. There's literally nothing to prove that this happened. So what are they going to believe? They're going to believe that I'm just some crazy ex-girlfriend with a vendetta. And, I understand that that's a hard determination to make for a law enforcement official and everything. But that's one of the million reasons it is so hard for people to come forward with their stories. It becomes a he said, she said. And if there's no evidence, what's going to happen? And on top of that, again, this is someone who I had slept with before. So I go to the authorities. Oh, well, you were dating him. Oh, you were sleeping with him, or, whatever. How do we know this actually happened? So to be honest, after that, I pretty much buried it for a long time. I definitely buried it. And lucky enough, I met my ex-husband, Alex, only a couple months later. And if you don't know my ex-husband, he's one of the nicest, most genuine, good people in the world. And I mean that sincerely. And I often credited him for kind of like saving me, because without even realize I was doing it, I was definitely spiraling. And then I met Alex, and Alex kind of restored my faith again in not just good men, but in good people. And I never told Alex this story. Married, divorced, he still doesn't know this story because I carried it and I didn't talk about it because I blamed me. In my head, I'm the one who went over there. I'm the one who had a couple drinks. I'm the one who ate whatever shit I ate for dinner, because I'm always eating shit for dinner. I'm the one who, after I threw up, decided to kind of wake myself up in the shower. And I blamed myself. I 100% blamed myself. And at the same time, I thought about my past. I was a party girl, and, you know, I, I didn't really seriously date people for a while, but I was always, in and out of things with somebody. And who's gonna want to hear the story about that girl? You know. Anyway, it wasn't until the Me Too thing really started becoming a trend that I really realized how many people have similar stories as me. And I think that started giving me the strength to speak out a little bit. And I do remember the first time telling it out loud. I was on a road trip to North Carolina with a good friend of mine. And I decided that I felt safe. And she was the first person I really came out about it to. And of course, she was awesome about it, you know. Then unfortunately, I had shared it with somebody else whose response was, well, it wasn't really sexual assault because you had been sleeping with him before. And that kind of reaffirmed why I hadn't said anything for as long as I did. And now, with the way things have been in this country and the way things have gone, it's like ripping a scab off over and over and causing the bleeding to start over and over. Especially because, like I said, this is something I suppressed for years and just became comfortable, like, kind of talking about. And then you go on social media. And, there's this woman who is coming out about her story, and she's standing in front of all these men, these powerful men, to tell the story about how a now powerful man sexually assaulted her. And instead of just hearing her out, hearing a side of her story, people jumped on her. I saw people calling her meek and pathetic. And I thought, well, if she's meek and pathetic for having to tell her story to an entire country in a room full of all these men who want nothing more than her to just shut up, then what am I that I haven't said anything? And it was a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face, especially to see women talk like that about other women. Like, I'm not saying blindly believe anybody. I'm just saying to automatically assume someone is lying about something like that and is putting themselves in such an uncomfortable and embarrassing position. This is hard. This isn't easy. And you're my friends, most of you. Some of you I know through my computer. But most of you are my friends. You know me. And this is hard. So I can't imagine for these women who come out against these powerful men to have to come out to the world and say, here's my story. This is what happened, knowing full well that they're going to have their past life dissected. Dr. Ford was promiscuous. Okay. And am I saying that we all don't do dumb shit when we're teenagers? We absolutely do. But you got to own up to your dumb shit. You do some dumb shit, own up to your dumb shit. And that's not what's happening here. So I guess I decided I needed to say something and speak out about it because, again, you guys know me, and I'm an educated woman. I have a career. Like I said, most of you know my heart and how I am as a person. And I have nothing politically to gain from coming out with this. So, giving my experience and what happened with me, I feel like is important because I'm a nobody. And this guy's even less than a nobody. And I think that, you know, just hearing that, you know, it's not so black and white. Why didn't they come forward? Why is it 36 years later? Because of everything people are saying. That's why. Like I said, I didn't tell my mom. And at the time, it was because I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. But then when the Me Too movement started, and I love my mother, by the way. We have different political leanings, but I love my mother. However, her current political leanings made me feel like she was not someone I could talk to about it. So I know, and again, if you support the current administration, again, that's your choice, but understand that there are those of us who have our reasons not to. So before this man became president and he said, grab her by the pussy, and we all heard it with our own ears and just wanted to dismiss it as boys being boys, my immediate reaction was, well, shit, if that's the boys in your life and that, like, what would you do if you found out that's how your husband talked to his friends? And maybe it's because I was married to Alex, who's such a decent, good person. But, like, I just can't in a million years support somebody who thinks that his power gives him the authority to grab someone by the pussy. And, you know, everyone's, you know, oh, it's PC, it's PC. No, trauma is real. Trauma exists. It's the same reason I can't really get down with the 9/11 jokes. You know, it's just, it's real. It's real shit, and it's heavy. And to sit around and, you know, tell people they're being sensitive about this and sensitive about that, if you don't live it, one, good for you that you've never had to experience that and carry that with you. And if you have lived it and you were able to talk about it, more power to you. You are strong. And I always thought I was strong. I still think I'm a strong ass woman. But unfortunately, when it came to this, I questioned myself. I blamed myself. And sometimes I still do. Like I said, like, this isn't easy, you know, talking about this to anybody. But it needs to be said. And my hope was, by talking about it and sharing my experience, maybe it would give people a little bit of insight to the fact, no, you don't remember moment for moment. I wish I could say that you remember every single moment. I wish I could say, you know, you can remember the most important details. I can't tell you what date it was. It was late summer. I know it was a Saturday. So that being said, I just feel like, hold on, because I'm going to get up and let them out because they're going to start barking. Ugh. So anyway, we're going to do this on the move. That's why I decided that maybe, you know, I was someone to come out about it. I hope, you know, most of you respect me well enough to know that I wouldn't come out about this if I didn't think it would make a difference or it wouldn't matter. But if you have any questions about it, I want to be an open book. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about who it was, you know, things like that. But I definitely do want to be someone that makes people feel comfortable enough to come forward with their story. And maybe just, you know, for the men out there who constantly want to say, not all men, not all men. No, we know not all men. But most women. And not necessarily sexual assault, but, you know, a lot of women, we can't even feel comfortable going to the store. I can't pump my gas without feeling like I'm being stared at in my work clothes, not because I'm dressed scantily. And that's reality for a lot of us. And I think that's a point that needs to be made, is that we can't just assume someone's lying, and especially for political gain, when I know how tough it is to even tell the people you love and trust the most about what you've been through. So I hope you found that somewhat enlightening. Again, questions or anything, you can feel free to ask, and I'm pretty much an open book about it. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for listening and letting me get it off my chest. And now I don't have to be so vague with my memes. Now I can be more specific with my memes and less passive aggressive. You know, even though I love being passive aggressive on the internet, don't get me wrong. I'm going to get these dogs in and I'll respond to you on the chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.